Tonight on Q Weekly, we have another instalment of Women's Law with Chris Sitka. We also have a music review of Tom Craft's Loneliness. But first up is Q News.
Good evening and welcome to Q Weekly. I'm Becky and here's Q Weekly News. Yarra Council has begun investigating the need for a gay relationship register. Melbourne Inner City Councils are saying that they are keen to register same-sex partnerships if the gay and lesbian community request them to do so. Yarra Mayor Greg Barber said that the council decided to look into registers following the decision by the City of South Sydney to establish Australian First Partnerships Register for same-sex couples. Councillor Barber notes that he recognises there is a huge gay and lesbian community in Yarra and is surprised that there haven't been any requests from the community to start a familiar scheme. Councillor Darren Ray, an openly gay member from Port Phillip Council, said there were no requests from the community of Port Phillip to provide such a service. He also says Port Phillip would of course consider such a proposal if it came to them from the Gay and Lesbian Advisory Group or from other groups within the community. Earlier this month, the City of South Sydney decided to establish Australia's first partnerships register for same-sex couples. The move followed John Howard's comments that he opposed same-sex relationships. A homophobic assault took place against two gay men in Melbourne CBD recently. According to Scott Davis from Police Gay and Lesbian Liaison, the two who were believed to be tourists on holiday in Melbourne were abused by a man and a woman walking down Swanston Street past the McDonald's. On walking past again, they were attacked by the two people, receiving blows to the face before the aggressors fled. The two victims did not sustain any serious injuries. Police have identified one offender and have questioned the man and are on the lookout still for the female. So far, no charges have been laid against the male offender. Also, more warnings against men who are going to be using beats around Melbourne. There are still continual pickpockets happening. A source warned MCV last week that the thieves stole car keys from inside a victim's jacket pocket at Fitzroy Gardens Beats. Another incident was reported at Pipe Makers Park in Maribyrnong. An individual there had been intimidating and threatening violence against gay men using the beat, as well as attempting to extort money. Police are urging men who are going to use the beats to please be wary and avoid having any valuables with them. Finally, there are new findings in women's health studies recently showing that lesbian women are much higher risk of depression, anxiety, substance abuse and smoking than heterosexual women. Research using information from a women's health advisory study, which looked at women between 22 and 27 and was announced at a nationwide conference last week, bringing together lesbian medical practitioners from around Australia. Ruth Nicolae, who actually conducted the research, found that discrimination had a huge impact on the community and has encouraged support for a targeted campaign against smoking, as well as greater provision for mental health and drug abuse in the lesbian community. Nicolae notes that lesbians may be aware of their own health issues, however, don't have as great an awareness as gay men do due to the fact that they have the experience with HIV. Another significant finding at the conference was the amount of homophobia still in the medical fraternity, with over half experiencing discrimination from colleagues and nearly 80% hearing condemning comments made about lesbian patients and other doctors. There will be lobbying to have lesbian rights included again in the agenda on the next Medical Women's International Conference. And finally, I'd like to actually introduce Jayson, who's a new member to Bent TV. Hi, Jayson, how are you going?
Good, thanks, Beck. Yourself?
I'm very good. Jayson's actually going to be doing a few music reviews with us, and I believe you've got something for us today, Jayson?
Absolutely. What I'm going to be doing is the new Tom Craft CD. It's actually been out since Christmas last year. It entered the world markets through Germany, where it reached number 2 earlier this year. Then went to UK and became number 1, where it's filtered then down to Australia, and it's on the charts at the moment. There seems to be a bit of controversy with the lyrics. Some people aren't quite getting the words right. There's a few words there that are a little bit hard to understand, but perhaps listen to it yourself and see what you think. It's a great sort of song that you might hear in the market later on at night, or perhaps listening in your car. Just don't tap that steering wheel too hard because some people will be watching.
So at the moment, Jayson, is it still out on the market, or?
Absolutely, it's available at all good record stores, and if it's not there, just make sure they order it in for you.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's all we've got time for today, I'm afraid, on Bed TV. Thanks for watching, and good evening.
Good evening once again. This is Q Weekly and welcome for viewing to our viewers. We're extending our program on the women goddess and also about the subject of the Aboriginal connection and the goddess. Now Chris, in her previous talk, an interview, chat with me, we've already established how she made that connection with the women 10 years ago, the Aboriginal women. Now I'm just wondering, there's the Women's Centre, which I cannot pronounce the name of. How do you pronounce the name of the centre?
Aboriginal Women's Centre.
So the women there, they had their own spiritual stories, but you connected with yours, I believe. In what way? How did you do that exchange?
Well, when I first met these women elders, they're from a desert culture. They still live a very traditional life and do a lot of their own ceremonies. When I first met them, I showed them some of my culture from the research I'd been doing into what I call the Indigenous European culture, because we don't think of European people as Indigenous, but in fact we are. And in the past, before we had all this kind of technological development, we also lived what is now called an Indigenous life. And I have done a lot of research into the spiritual aspects of that. So I was, because I know the women were interested in who we are too, in a spiritual sense, in a deep spiritual sense, I showed them some of the images and symbols. And for example, I have this one here that actually comes from a piece of pottery in Ukraine, which is my father's Ukrainian, so I regard it as my tradition. And this is symbolic of the bird goddess. You see here the beak of the bird goddess and the snake and the eggs. It's quite complex symbology, but I explained to the women, and when I held this up, they just gasped and they could see it as a symbol of spiritual power. And later on, one of the elders, Ivy Napangadi, came up to me and she said, they call me Napuljari, they've given me a skin name. She said, Napuljari...
A skin name? What do you mean by that?
I think it's a bit much to explain now. It's an Aboriginal kinship structure. Yeah. Anyway, she said, Napuljari, I've got the same dreaming as you. And I was thrown back. And she said, yes, I've got a sacred site out in the desert that incorporates the same elements as this symbol from your father's culture. And it was also a place that had a long-necked water bird, a snake and an egg, all incorporated in the dreaming story. So basically she was saying to me that we share the same dreaming, which of course is, strictly not true, because this comes from Europe. This symbol is probably 5,000 or 6,000 years old. And this, for her, it's still a living part of her culture and her tradition. So that's the way that,
But there is a spiritual grapevine, more or less, connection, an invisible string or flow through everything.
It's about the same way of connecting with the earth. I think the European matriarchal culture is also about connecting with the earth, worshipping the earth, and seeing, the spiritual connection in the way that Indigenous Australian culture is, and they could see. And so that we also had we may not have it now, but we had in the past a culture very much like theirs, which had this kind of dreaming connection to earth and the spirit of the earth.
I'm really interested to know about the artwork that they paint on their bodies. Everything means something, doesn't it? It's not just like painting on your body.
Oh, no. It's very much, when the women do ceremony, and I've been out there with them doing ceremony, and I've actually been painted up myself, there's a specific design for the specific dreaming, and it relates to a place in the landscape. And depending on your relationship within the kinship system and to that place, you get a specific design. So you might have 10 women painting up for one dance, and they'll have each will have a different design.
Absolutely wonderful. I remember just briefly going into Egypt myself and having tattoos done with a Menindi tattooing done, and I know how it put me in a different space. Did you go into a different sort of space and focus into a spiritual, some sort of ecstatic feeling at all when you were being painted?
You do. Definitely when the women are singing and painting up, they create a very, special atmosphere, and they tend to go into, I suppose, what's almost a trance-like state.
Yeah.
It is a very intense experience, and especially for them. I mean, not so much for me, because I don't have the actual, my relationship isn't with that dreaming, that's their relationship.
But you actually did meld a bit with that.
They invite me in to share that with them.
So not everyone can walk into a secret ceremony such as this, can they?
No,
it's not a tourist attraction situation. No.
They invite me because of the work that I do with them. I do a lot of
and you're well
voluntary
known
work for them, and they trust me. But I find them very sharing of things.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming again and talking with us and giving us this wonderful picture of the women sharing their spiritual knowledge and the goddess. And thank you for watching us again. We'll see you in a fortnight's time, just to resume the goddess within.
For more information on Chris Sitka's writings and research, please email her on csitka@geac.com.au. That's CSITKA@geack.com.au.
Hi,
Oh, sorry.
just anything doesn't really matter, does it?
No, just the one.
La 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 la.
Or maybe just speak.
On walking past again, they were attacked by the two people, receiving blows to the face before the aggressors are fled. That again. Okay.
Or go to the start of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. No, I'm sorry to smile. Okay. According to Scott Davis, the police, gay and lesbian... Sorry.
Then went to UK and became #1, where it's filtered then down to Australia, and it's on the charts at the moment.
A homophobic assault took place against two gay men in Melbourne CBD recently. According to Scott Davis from the Police Gay and Lesbian Liaison, the two, who are believed to be tourists in Melbourne, were abused by a man and a woman walking down.
There seems to be a little bit of controversy about the lyrics themselves. Some people aren't quite getting the words right. Have a listen for yourself and try and make out what you're actually